Hey everyone, it is Monday morning, meaning it's time for Motivational Monday. And my name is Christopher Donnell, and I'm one of the pastors here at Urbana UMC. And I'm here with some missionary friends from the area in Urbana, and I'll let them introduce themselves and who they are and what they're bringing today. So take it away.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Todd, and this is my wife.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
Charles, and we are from, as Christopher said, we're from this area. Some of you may know me. I taught at Urbana for 22 years in the junior high, and then I left 5 years ago to head to Ecuador, South America, to be a missionary.
That's awesome. So, from Urbana area originally, or?
I'm not. I'm an implant. I grew up over by Indiana, but I attended Urbana University.
Okay.
And that's where I met Barbara at Urbana University, and then transplanted to this area.
How about you, Barbara?
I grew up down the road in Madison County.
All right.
And then attended here at Urbana University. And
Rest
we
in
met.
peace.
Yes.
University.
It's a good
Moment
little
of
nights.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then we just kind of stayed settled here in Central Ohio, and I taught for 22 years also in Madison County.
Nice.
And then while he was up here teaching.
So both education background,
Yeah.
both Urbana University background, and then you said you answered a call to be a part of the mission background. You both are now missionaries. Where are you all doing mission work at? And talk about that journey to get there.
Right now we are at Camp Payatanga. It's an evangelical camp in Ecuador, South America. Payatanga is a small town for around here, maybe the size of Mechanicsburg, and about 5,000 people living there. So we got called there about 8-9 years ago while we were still teaching.
Okay.
We always, we had summers free, and we said, well, the Lord called us to do more with our summers than just hang out in camp.
Right.
So we started heading south, and our girls loved it.
So you got
We have two girls. Olivia, who's now 24, and Madeline, who's 20. And we started going down when they were
12.
Wow.
And 12 and 8.
12 and 8. And we were using our summers as teachers to go down. And then about 7 years ago, the Lord says, time to quit messing around and let's go.
Full time.
So then we prayed a lot and leapt in. We just jumped in and have been following Jesus down.
That sounds way too easy. Just leapt in.
No.
Was it more difficult than that?
It was.
Yeah.
So, like Todd said, we felt we wanted to do more, and our church's youth group had gone, and they got hooked up with the camp that was there. And we are missionaries through One Mission Society, which is out of Greenwood, Indiana. And so Todd went down with our oldest daughter, Olivia, who was 12 at the time, and they spent a week there and, doing things, and came back and loved it, talking about, we should all go as a family. And I was like, yeah, I don't think so. But God had actually been working on my heart about missions and about serving. Wow. And so after a lot of prayer, we committed to 6 weeks that first summer.
Okay.
Which is a lot of time.
Yeah.
For your first time out of the country.
Well, and when you're an educator, that time's kind of precious to you
guys. That's, everybody wants to say you have the summers off. But basically you have that 6 weeks off. Yeah. And that's it. So yeah. But when we got down there, it was amazing. And we both felt at peace with our decision, and our girls loved it. But as soon as our feet touched back on U.S. soil, I said, okay, God, I did it.
Yeah.
I was obedient, I went, and now I never have to go again. And that's how I thought. I was like, okay, I did it, and done. Check that off. But then he has a way of saying, no, you're not done. This is just the beginning.
Right.
And so kind of took a while to wrap our heads around, because I think people thought maybe we were having a midlife crisis. Sure. And we weren't. Right. We were extremely content. Yeah. We both loved teaching. Yeah. Todd loved his time here in Urbana. He wasn't ready to be done. I loved my time. I was teaching in West Jeff when we left. I wasn't ready to be done. So it was hard.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that you say you were content. It's not like you were knocking down a door to go search for some new thing to do, right? It was kind of like God pressing upon your heart and drawing you to this place of understanding, right?
Yeah, yeah. We had, we started getting more and more involved at our home church, and through different ministries, and it just, I guess it just kind of evolved. It just evolved into a little bit more, where God would ask a little bit more, and He asked a little bit more, until He knew when we were going to be ready,
right?
And we weren't ready for 5 or 6 years.
Well, and God is patient, and there's God's timing in everything too, where you have to wait sometimes, and you have to be worked on and be prepared, right?
Absolutely.
And one thing we used to talk, a lot of our Christian friends would ask us, "Well, man, how do you teach in a public school? How do you?" And to us, it's like, how do you not?
How do you not, right?
Yeah, because if we're called to reach the lost,
right?
The lost is everywhere, and they're in public schools, and maybe we weren't able to share our faith as openly as you could in a private Christian school. But I taught junior high science, and people would say, and one of the things I used to have to teach was the theory of evolution. And I said, the greatest thing about this is when you start talking about it, somebody's going to ask the question. And then once they ask the question, like, what do you believe?
Right.
Then the door is open to share what you believe.
Sure.
So I always loved that aspect of it.
Yeah. We're not called to just create little bubbles and disappear into the world, right? We're called to be in the world, and the world is everywhere, including Ecuador.
Including Ecuador.
So talk about what goes on. So you signed up, you said about 7-8 years ago you felt this call. You haven't been down there for 7-8 years. What's the timeline of how long you've been there? And you're obviously not there now. Talk about that as well.
We finally, it was a lot of back and forth. It was, should we not? Can we not? Madeline, our youngest daughter, who's 20 now, has a very significant heart defect that required 3 open heart surgeries before the age of 3.
Wow.
One of those defects that is life-altering. And so do we take her away? That was a big struggle. But I just kept having to give her to God. This is God. If you're calling, then
You'll provide too.
He'll provide and He'll protect, and and we had to trust in that. And so finally, I was able to get out of my own way.
Yeah.
And a lot of God just showed up in just amazing ways and just confirmed our decision along every step of the way. So in 2016, we were accepted as full-time, missionary candidates, kind of, and so we had to do our fundraising and things. Right. And I would say we kind of played around about for another year. We, kind of like, well, if God provides, we'll go. So, and then it was like December of 2017, January 2018, and we looked at each other and we said, if we're doing this, we need to do it. And by that time, we were only like 20% funded. And so Todd got really serious. We prayed about it. We started making calls. And by April, we were 50% funded. Nice. And
well, I think one of the things too is we'll stop for a second. One of the things too is we had been going down for summers, for 4 or 5 summers, and so people knew that that's what we did.
Right.
So when we said, well, we're going to Ecuador, I think in some minds it was like, oh, they're doing the summer thing again. It's just a little part-time thing. Right. So then the first thing when we said before we got to 50%, when we got serious, well, what do we got to do to show people that this is real? Right. And so we said, well, what's the first thing? What's the biggest thing you got here? Your house. So we said we got to sell our house. And we've been there. Madeline, that's the only house our daughter Madeline had known. So she'd been there 15 years at that point. And so we said, all right, let's sell the house. And that was a little stumbling block too, because I don't know about some of you guys. We've always chosen the worst time to sell a house. But we put it on the market, and it took a little bit, but then not real long, but it took what, 5 months, 6 months, and then we had a contract, and we sold our house and moved in an apartment. And then this is where we back to this point where we're funding.
And then, so we're like, okay, we've sold our house. We need to get serious about this funding. So by April, we were 50% funded. which was significant because that is a time when you can start receiving insurance through our new mission organization. So that because of Madeline's health problem, we can't ever be without insurance. Health insurance is a big issue. So we were actually speaking at another church up here in Urbana the first weekend in May of 2018, and we were sitting in on their Sunday school class, and they were talking about Peter and getting out of the boat, and the whole thing was get out of the boat. You cannot keep sitting in the boat. Get out the boat. Yeah. And so Todd and I kind of looked at each other. We're like, gotta get out the boat.
Right.
So that Tuesday, I talked to my principal. And I said, "This is it. I'm done."
Yeah.
I said, and I handed her my letter of resignation.
Wow.
And so at lunchtime, I texted Todd and I said, "I just resigned. I might throw up. It's time, but you need to resign." And so that was like I think that's what God was waiting for us to get out of the boat, to take that big step and say, you can't do this 1 foot in, 1 foot out thing anymore. So walking away from careers that we were vested in, retirement, people were like, you guys are insane. Like,
Possibly,
yes, we could be. So that was a big motivator, and then by August, we were 100% funded.
That's awesome.
And then by October, we were on the mission field in Ecuador. So October 2018, we did 9 months in language school. Another huge step of faith is learning a second language in your 40s.
Yeah.
So God blessed us in such amazing ways.
That's awesome.
We had an amazing experience. We were able to go to language school in Ecuador. We've made lasting friendships, relationships. And then we started on our field of service. And with OMS, you do 4 years on the field and then typically 6 months off. So we've finished our 4 years. We came back in July, so we're in our 6-month furlough right now.
So you just came back in July of
Yes.
2022.
Yes.
Yep. And so 6 months, January, you're going back
Yes.
for another 4 years.
We'll start our next term, yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Exciting.
It is exciting.
So what are, this is, you guys are there on purpose. You're not just hanging out in Ecuador, drinking coffee and stuff. So what do you guys do in Ecuador? What's the heart of the mission?
Well, it kind of felt like we're hanging out during the pandemic,
Oh,
which
I'm
everybody had that
Everybody
feeling.
was hanging
Everybody
out.
had that feeling. But our main
Did you guys get to watch
mission.
Netflix?
We do get Netflix.
Do you get Netflix? All right. At least you got that.
And that's a long story too, because before we got there, there was another missionary family there, and when we were visiting in the summers, they never had internet. Never had internet at the camp. And then they were blessed by a church here in the States that, because it was a little pricey to get, and it's fiber optic, and so now it's pretty decent.
There you go.
So
the pandemic wasn't terrible.
Well, it wasn't horrible.
Terrible.
And for me, it was there's what our main ministry is. We work at a camp, an evangelical camp, and churches from Ecuador can basically come and use the facilities, rent the camp for weekends, usually weekends, to hold retreats for their youth, pastors' retreats. There's a lot of women's retreats and stuff that happen at the camp that churches use it for.
Okay.
And our main job is to help facilitate that. We have 3 dormitories that'll hold about 110 people.
Okay.
We have 3 houses, one of them that we live in, a small apartment with 3 bedroom, 2 baths that we're going to use in the future for pastors to come. So if you want to come down for a retreat,
that'd be great.
The stay's for free. You got to buy your own tickets. All right. but we want to offer that to pastors in Ecuador, that they can come and just be able to retreat and get away and not charge for that, because Ecuador is a developing country, and it's sometimes hard to come by finances to help. So that's something that we want to do. And then we have another house for teams that come down. So if a team wanted to come down from the Urbana Methodist Church and wanted to stay, we'd have facilities for you as well.
Awesome.
So our main job is to kind of oversee everything, make sure everything's working. Everybody's got hot water, everybody's got a bed, everybody's happy, everybody's got food.
Awesome.
And then to greet and meet. And then also our future is to plan trips for English camps, women's retreats from people coming down from the United States to help out and different things of that as well.
That's awesome. So a lot of that's happened in this first 4 years. So this next 4 years, what do you see as some new opportunities or new ways that you all are going to serve and do mission. I mean, I know we talked recently about the ropes course or whatever, some upgrades to the camp or whatever.
Well, we're really excited. It's, probably one of the hardest things is to be torn, loving being here, being with our girls, because Olivia and Madeline, are in university here and have transitioned back here. So loving being with our girls and our family, but also longing to be back home and excited to be back in the work that God has called us to do. So finally, I don't want to say anything, but I think we can safely say that things are opening back up and we can start planning again and moving forward. Yeah. We really do want to partner with teams and churches from the U.S., especially with English camps. Yeah. English is a highly desired skill in Ecuador. Sure. Ecuador is a tourist country. The Galapagos Islands is part of Ecuador. Okay. Lots of job opportunities if you can speak English. Sure. It's also a requirement in the high school, and you have to have a certain level of English in order to get into university. Oh, wow. So lots of opportunities, which leads to, because as Todd said, we do a lot of hosting of church groups. Well, those are already churched individuals. English camps, hosting just a weekend, Friday through Sunday, English camp, where they get to speak with native speakers, which is huge, opens it up to people that are not churched. So it's a huge evangelical opportunity. Yeah. So we're really excited to do that. But there's only two of us, and we're the only two English speakers in Payatonga. Wow. So we have to have, it's not one of these where we would be making a job because we want somebody to come. No, we have a job and we need people to help us. Okay. So we would love to have people come alongside with, speak Spanish, you need to speak English.
That's awesome.
And so you can just come down and hang out with us and we'll plan all these things and do all these fun activities and it'll be great.
That's awesome.
So anybody that wants to do that, please get in touch. We'd love to have you. We want to also plan some more youth-oriented. We both do have an education background. We have a heart for the youth of Ecuador. We could tell you stories that will just, break your heart for our youth. And we would love to have people that want to come alongside. We also have an opportunity, if we have any college-age kids, we have through OMS, One Mission Society, we have a new program called Embark, which is our short-term missions specifically aimed a lot at college students, maybe somebody taking a gap year or on for summer break that wants to come alongside of us for longer than 7 to 10 days. Maybe you want to do a 3-month or a 2-month time. So also get in touch with us. Yeah. We're going to put our contact information up. Yeah. So we have a lot of opportunities. We are excited to get back. This is a new beginning almost. Yeah. Where we get to transition back, and we are going to be, we've been in a transition of taking over the camp from the missionaries that were there previously. So when we get back in January, it's fully ours with fully the ideas that God has put on our hearts. Yep. And we're just excited to be there doing that. And we're excited to have people come alongside and just join us in what God's doing. Plus, Payatonga is amazingly beautiful. Awesome. We are in the foothills of the Andes mountain range at about 5,000 feet altitude. It's when you Central Ohio, flat. So when you're used to this
West Liberty has some hills.
You do. It is a little more hilly here. Just kidding. But it's just an amazingly beautiful and restful place to be too.
That's awesome. Well, it's exciting. It would make sense, you signed up for 4 years, and then 2 of those years have been COVID. So it's it's almost been like this preparation for another, like you said, a new season, a new chapter. So that's really cool. For those who are watching and engaging today, what are ways that people can connect with you and reach out and learn more about you guys, but then maybe what you're doing and how they stay connected with you?
Well, the easiest way to reach out to us is through email. Yep. And I don't know
I'll put it up there.
Through email, that's the easiest way because we don't use phone numbers because when we're in Ecuador, we have Ecuadorian phone numbers, and here we get track phone numbers. But the email is the easiest way, and you just contact us through email. We'll get right back to you as soon as we can. And if you ever have. If God puts something on your heart, say, I'd love to be a part of an English camp, or if you have a skill for art, Yeah, we'd love to maybe have a camp where people come down and teach some of our locals maybe some art, how to paint, something that they can do to make a little bit of extra money, to sell some art or something like that. We can do that, and you won't need to speak Spanish. We can translate and find translators to help out with that. So if there's something that God puts on your heart that, hey, I think this is something that works out, just contact us, and if we can make it happen, we'll make it happen.
So you guys are dreaming of new ways and are open to where God's leading, which is great. Because a lot of opportunities are out there. I mean, it takes all of us to reach the world, right?
It is.
We do. We also have a Facebook page. The camp in Spanish is called Lugar, Lugar, de, D-E, Shalom.
Okay.
Which is Shalom, Lugar de Shalom. And if you search that on Facebook, we should come up.
Awesome.
And we put different updates and things on that. And, it's mostly it's in Spanish, but you Google, it'll translate for you.
Right.
So.
Well, I've started working on a dual page where it has English and Spanish both.
Perfect.
But I need to have a native Spanish speaker check my Spanish. It's still a little bit iffy at times.
So, as the world has gotten more expensive, I'm sure mission work also has gotten more expensive. How can people support you? And if they are not wanting to jump on a plane down to Ecuador, what are some other ways people can help you guys out?
I think that's a very important question, because a lot of people think, well, I can't do anything for missions. I'm too old. I'm too young, and you're never too old. You're never too young.
Right.
All right. And because we've had a Sunday school of little kids that have collected money and donated money.
That's cool.
For us, again, you're going to show the card. You can financially support us, and we have our account number is on the card, 802-599, and that would go to One Mission Society.
Awesome.
And that would go directly into our account and support us in Ecuador and the work we do. The camp has its own account. We live and work on the camp, but the camp is self-sufficient and has its own account, and basically it's sustainable by the camp's income.
Right.
And then we do get donations from people in the United States.
Okay.
But then we do have some special projects as well.
Right.
So you mentioned the low ropes course. We talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
One of the things that the camp has, we have about 14 acres.
Okay.
And we have space, and I have the vision of putting a low ropes course.
Awesome.
Something that obstacle courses, something that teams can come, that they get excited about, and they can use with minimal to no, I guess, risk factor to them. There are high ropes course, I know, and zip lines in Ecuador, but about governmental, who knows who checks those?
Yeah.
But so we do have a couple projects. We have a low ropes course project that you're going to share the information with, and you can look at that. And if you want to donate to that, there's a address on it, or you can email me.
Okay.
And I'll get you in contact where you need to go. The missionaries who are transitioning out, they felt called to build a chapel. The chapel we have on the church is just on the campground. Is just a prayer chapel. Okay. It's really about a 9x9, almost like a shed.
Oh, wow.
But it's a chapel. It is a chapel. It's just a prayer chapel. But when camps come, and we have a camp of 100 people, the dining hall serves as both the meeting hall and the dining hall. So it's tear down, set up, tear down, set up. So they felt led to build a new chapel. And the chapel, I'd say, is about 3/4 of the way finished now.
Yes.
Okay.
COVID shut everything down.
Sure.
And then financially,
windows,
and financially, and this is one thing that we've learned as missionaries. And you do the work as God provides the money, and He will always provide the money. It might not be as fast as you want, or in time, as you think. Oh, I need it now. He'll provide it when He's ready, and so we're just relying on God, and we're just faithfully waiting for God to provide the rest of the money. And when the chapel gets finished, it'll be finished.
That's awesome.
So, but those are the main projects we have going on. We always have little construction projects as far as painting and things like that. And that's something. Something that teams can come down to. So, well, I can't really speak Spanish. You don't need to speak Spanish to paint a brush. So
there are ways to serve.
But there's definitely ways that you can serve and be a part of what's happening.
That's awesome. So for those who are watching, how would you encourage folks in their walk? How would you motivate them today? And obviously if you feel motivated to support Barbara and Todd, that'd be great. But maybe you're just going to your job today, or maybe you're dropping your kids off at school. How would you encourage those who are listening today?
I think in our busy world, in our busy culture here, it's really easy to get in our lane and stay focused on what we are doing, and we have a plan, and that plan probably includes a lot of really good things, a lot of ministry in church, and a lot of really good things. But we also need to make sure that we are open and listening to the prompts from the Spirit too, because a lot of times it's just easy in this busy, loud world to ignore those.
Sure.
And I think one of the biggest blessings of being on the mission field and working full time in ministry is having that chance to be stop and be still and to listen. And even that gets hard. We get in our lane and we're like, oh, this is what we're going to do. And then God's like, oh no, that is not what you're going to do.
Right.
So I think it's just really important, and you never know what little thing it is that's going to call you, and it's going to flip something that literally could change your entire life.
Yeah.
I truly never expected to be sitting here saying, oh yes, we are full-time missionaries, finishing our first term and going back. Right. I truly, when 2012 was our first trip down there as a family, and I literally got back off the plane. I was like, okay, check that off the list.
Right.
I'm done.
Right.
And to just be open to the leading of the Spirit and open to obedience. God gives us the ability to say yes or to say no. And sometimes those yeses are the hardest thing to say because it requires a big step of faith.
Sure.
But I can't even explain how blessed. I don't know where we would be. I mean, I'm sure we would be content and happy if we had said no.
Right.
It's not something that, God's going to take away our happiness because we said no. Right. He's not going to punish us because we said no. But the richness of our life now, being able to communicate with people in two languages, being able to experience and just live in a culture and have deep, abiding relationships with people that 4 years ago we couldn't have communicated with, is number one, miraculous that we can communicate, but is just such a blessing. And then, so just since we've been back here, I've been working back in our old school. We're both substituting because we're here and visiting churches on weekends. We thought we might as well. And in some of our schools, we have, Spanish-speaking families and nobody to translate. So I've been able to reach out. I've been into the homes of these people that I have prayed with them. They have cried with me. I mean, shared their hearts with me. That's a blessing. That is a blessing that I would have never been able to experience. And if there was no reason for me to have spent the last 4 years in Ecuador, other than the fact that when I came back here, I could reach out to our new neighbors. I mean, that's just amazing to me. That's cool. And it's just been such a huge blessing, and it's changed my life. I'm now pursuing getting my teaching English as a second language because if God does call us back here, I've decided I want to do that.
Right, that's awesome.
When I go back in the classroom, that's what I want to do. So you just never know what that one yes is going to do. And it's just amazing just when God allows you to come alongside him and what he is doing, it's amazing.
I think for me, it was, I found a lot of reasons that I couldn't do things in church. A lot of reasons. They had asked me, will you be on the board? No.
Sure.
Will you do this? No. There's a lot of reasons that I was able to, I could find to say no.
Right. Too busy
and,
or whatever.
Yeah, and I think, we hear those things in church. My big thing is get involved. There are so many opportunities. I know you guys have the warehouse up here, and you guys are doing great things up here in Urbana. There's the Urbana Youth center, and that's doing great things. They're always looking for volunteers. Get involved. Just pray. Listen to the Lord, like Barbara was saying. God has something special for you and can use you. And I said something earlier. It doesn't matter about your age, how old you are, how young you are. God can use you. And so I just want to motivate you to listen and get involved in something.
Because there's an opportunity everywhere, and it doesn't have to be Ecuador.
It does not.
No. But it might.
It might
be. Yeah. No, but nobody at 48 said, "Oh yeah,
right. I'm sign up for Ecuador.
I'm in. Let's go. I'm out." But you never know, and it's true. God will use you. I always joke and say, be careful what you say. Lord, use me.
Right.
Lord, use me.
Yeah.
If you say it, you got to be willing to live it. So
that's awesome.
But so just get involved. Find some. Ask your pastor. Ask him, how can I get involved more? What can I do? How can I help?
Right.
Just be involved.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your hearts today and just about what you're doing and what's next and what's coming, which is exciting to dream about the future and when you guys head back in January, right? And so blessings on your travel and the missions and the ministry. So there'll be lots of ways you can connect with them, and we'll have all that information on this video. But again, the motivation is find somewhere to get involved, do something, and then be excited about what that obedience will do. When you do say yes, and you don't know where that'll lead to the next area or the next chapter, or next season of your life, even if it's right next door or down the street or all the way in Ecuador.
Absolutely.
So we love you, and we're praying for you, and we will see you next week. See you then.
All right.
Bye.